Hi, welcome to Undergraduate Moderates. I'm Langston Howley. We got Zach Schwartz. We got Jacob Hook. I'm fired up this time. I don't know about these boys, but let's talk about news.
So this week on Undergraduate Moderates, we're bucking our usual international and domestic current event segment. Instead, we're going to be having a little more of an in-depth conversation on two of the most important news events of the week. First, we're going to talk about the U.S. leaving the UN Human Rights Council. Zach, you want to jump us in real quick?
I could jump you in real quick. Well, obviously, the news is we left. That's the simple facts of it. And now, according to the New York Times headlines, of course, we joined Eritrea, North Korea, and Iran as the only countries.
That's the thing. If you put that as a highlight,
that's their headline. That's their headline.
Yeah, they group us with those people like we're equal offenders on human rights, right?
There are obviously arguments to make on both sides. The argument that Trump and those guys are making, and that a lot of other people are making, was that the council is anti-Israel to its core.
To its core.
Well, I mean, more resolutions were passed against Israel than any other country.
And there was no compromise either.
No compromise.
Especially, we talked about this last week about who they were going to condemn for the violence and the protests in Gaza and southern Israel.
Yeah,
so they just didn't even consider.
Since 2006, Israel had 68 condemnations made against it. North Korea had 8 or 9, one of the two. And to say that Israel's 8 times the offender that North Korea is Stephen A. Smith would say is blasphemous.
Yeah, it's just when there's clearly the bias is so. I honestly think in this space, this is obviously a controversial topic, but in this space, the bias is so clear when two sides were clearly committing violence,
right,
and one took all of the blame. And so Nikki Haley and the American diplomats that represent the U.S. and the UN, they pulled out of the Human Rights Commission. And now what a lot of mostly left-wing people are saying, but I'm sure some right-wing people are saying as well, is that I think people who don't really understand the motives think that the U.S. is withdrawing because we don't want
human rights.
Right. They don't want to have a commitment to human rights, and that's not true, the case. Right. You can still be committed to human rights and not be part of that council. The council is also, I'm not going to say largely ineffective, but they do a great job at preventing human rights violations. But once something starts, they have almost no power to stop it.
There's no teeth to any of the resolutions.
Back in Rwanda, we were just talking about Rwanda last week, but there have been cases in Central Africa where another Rwanda could happen. They do a great job of preventing that. But in places like Rwanda and Kosovo, where the UN was present, they don't really have the ability to override state sovereignty and intervene.
Well, yeah, the UN in general is just simply a panel for communication. Mm-hmm. It doesn't there's no, like I said, there's no teeth to any of the resolutions they pass.
So I'm not sure that leaving this council is going to mean that the U.S. suddenly becomes a North Korea-esque human rights violation.
I don't think we have to worry about that, but I think there is an argument to be made about how
it looks bad.
How not only that it looks bad, but how we're known around the world as being the leader in the human rights fight, and now just like symbolic.
Maybe
like,
we need to
leaving the Human Rights Council, even if there's like a huge Israel bias, is like still.
Well, maybe
still
they need
that.
to get out to reform it from the outside.
I don't know if that's gonna happen, but.
I doubt it.
Also, one thing to note: while the U.S. was on the Human Rights Council, the number since 2006, the number of resolutions against Israel since 2006 went to half of all total resolutions to 1/5. So it was technically getting better. Was it still like a shit show? Yeah, but
and I think the U.S. is probably almost solely responsible for lowering that number. But
for sure,
that's still for 1/5 of the doctrines to be against Israel with all the countries in the world committing human rights atrocities that's a bias.
I still think there is something to be said though about leading the fight for human rights from like
it's probably better to stay
values.
in there and try and combat the bias rather than just quitting.
Right, yeah. I don't think the right move is just throw our hands up in defeat, but
toss the towel.
I guess Trump thinks differently.
Yeah. Okay. So I think that'll wrap up our conversation on the Human Rights Council. Now to our primary topic for this segment. It's going to be on the immigration crisis, child separation policy, whatever you want to call it. It goes by many names. So it's over now, technically. Technically the policy is done. Trump ended it after insurmountable pressure. Yeah. But there's still some fallout, and I think what we mostly want to talk about, you can tell me if this isn't true, but is what the controversy is and what's legitimate and what's not legitimate. And I think our biggest beef, I think we should just jump right into this, is we both agree that the policy is heinous and it's not moral in any way. But a big thing that people have been doing is comparing it to Nazism. And that Trump's enabling policies that the worst dictator in human history enabled. And I think we just think that's irresponsible. Right.
Yeah, I mean, I think you said it right there. Like, is Trump a total jackass? Absolutely. But is he Hitler? No. No, he's not.
The basic tenets of the Nazi Party and what is going on here, are they both morally bad? Yeah, is one far worse than the others. Yeah, and I think when we just because a policy is morally repugnant or something that you morally disagree with, it's not automatically equivalent to the worst human crimes in human history.
He's not killing anyone.
Right.
He didn't round
he's
up
not
6
going.
million.
He's not going and rounding up children to put them into gas chambers. These are people who legally cross the border, and then he does some not so okay stuff. But it's not. Just comparing it to that is irresponsible and unjust.
And a lot of the children that come over, like they really don't know what they're doing. They're just like following mom and dad. You know what I mean?
That's why it makes this policy worse. But it also they're just so different.
They are.
The basic tenets of the policies that Hitler enacted and this are just so both bad again, but not comparable.
And like people will say that. Like, there's still rule of law in this country. That's not out the window. Like,
this is still a democracy. Yeah. And you can just hear the people saying, oh, but not for long. Right. But it is.
It is. It will always be.
Yeah. Anything that's close to the atrocities that Hitler committed has never happened in a democracy.
No.
And especially not in a democracy like the U.S. is. It's this idea that we have to just... The idea that the opposition to Trump has to just compare him to the worst violence, that the most inhumane leadership ever it's kind of like it's ridiculous. I mean, call out the flaws in the policy, show why it's bad, and show that party what would be better. Don't jump to you're a Nazi.
No, totally. 100%.
It's irresponsible.
It totally is irresponsible.
So now that it's over, there's a lot of the fallout is what are they going to do with the kids that have already been separated? Where are they going to house these people? And I think me and Zach both agree that people who cross the border illegally are committing a crime, and they should be either deported or I don't know about this detainment stuff, but something should be done. How do you think the fallout's going to go?
I mean, like you said, they did do an illegal, like they knew they were doing an illegal action. Mm-hmm. They knew they were committing an illegal action when they crossed the border, as they did. As we've said in previous episodes, like there is a process lined out for people that want to like come here and live here, and obviously that process was not followed, and those laws were ignored.
Why should these people get citizenship?
Right.
People who decide to follow the process.
I've never been a fan of amnesty.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think you have to earn your way in. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. I think we're gonna wrap up this segment now. We're gonna come back to this in our big news with the big man segment, but right now we're gonna get into delusional and rotten.
All right, so we're going to lead into our delusional and rotten segment of the week. And as Langston said in the intro, we got some fired up individuals here, starting with Jacob Hook's delusional segment.
Yeah, so this isn't such a specific incident. It's kind of more of a process that I've noticed over the last week. So we agree that the immigration crisis is probably the biggest news of the week and last week. It's kind of, since it's responded so well by people on the left, like people read all about it and they're really fired up about the issue, it's taking over media outlets. Like it's the only story you see
around the clock.
Yeah, I'm looking at the front page of the New York Times right now, and these are the first headlines. As critics assail Trump, his supporters dig deep. Story about Trump. Trump leaves chaos in Capitol. Backed by data, Texas City asks about what border crisis. Why parents bring children on this treacherous journey. Everything is focused around Trump and the immigration policy. And there's so much happening in the world right now, and people who just get their news off of Twitter and Facebook, or those little like alerts you get from the Twitter news or whatever, are like being totally left out of the loop. I have BBC up. I'm going to do Reuters first because I think Reuters is better. In Syria, the rebels are the violence is increasing in the south.
And no one knows.
No one knows. The Saudi pledged to boost the oil supply in OPEC, which means gas prices are going down. I know that Zach likes that, but that's not on the news so much. Turkey is having its election. Erdogan is expected to win, but their party is way on the decline, which would be really big for human rights in Turkey.
No one ever heard about that.
No one heard about that. In Saudi Arabia, women officially are able to drive as of today. Iranian women are allowed to go to soccer games now.
These countries are just becoming progressive right before our very eyes.
Yeah, that's funny. All right, Iraq killed 45 Islamic State leaders in Syria. There was a grenade attack at an Ethiopia rally. The Zimbabwe president was almost assassinated. There's just so much going on, and these are things that I hadn't even heard about until I looked them up today.
Yeah.
And all I hear about is immigration crisis. Well, I want to clarify, like, it has dominated all headlines, but if you like interact with the news, there's a way to find other news. But if you get your news solely from
TV,
Twitter, TV, Facebook,
right,
something where you select your circle, you're not going to get anything else. You're going to have no idea what else is going on.
There are a few people,
and people like aren't trying to know what else is going on either.
But yeah, you nailed that. You
never had the attention,
right?
But it's, as a human being,
like few people are willing to be knowledgeable about what's actually going on in the world, because like those resources will always be available to you at any point. Like every website, every like decent news website has Asia section and Africa section, like Europe
business,
section,
tech,
science, sports, everything. They all have like all those different like subcategories that you can click in, but people just love like clicking on the front page. It's like immigration,
clicking on the thing that gets them the most.
It's laziness. It's laziness. That's what it really is.
And the news networks are just pumping out these stories about the immigration thing because they quote unquote sell so well to people on Twitter and Facebook. People on Twitter and Facebook are pretty largely.
Well, the more fired up people are, the better it is for
That's what I'm
news.
saying.
'Cause,
So
yeah.
the people are, especially left wing people, are really fired up about this, as they should be.
Yeah.
But that just means that they're just going to keep churning stories out of this
Sure.
until the hype dies down.
Yeah.
Which is really concerning to me. So that's my delusional segment.
Well, I mean, you're going off of that a little bit more. I was reading
I'd love it if you went off.
Oh,
on
I
a little
will,
bit
sir.
more.
I absolutely will. I was reading an article in Politico last month, and so it was about how Scott Pruitt was basically on the ropes as EPA director. There's scandal after scandal coming out, and like the left wing press and even a lot of moderate press.
I think I know where you're about to go.
Was
with this.
was totally like crucifying him for all of that stuff, and like he was on his last leg is basically what people were saying.
Right.
And
as you should be.
and then like this, as he should be. Like he's a dick, but
He has no. Yeah.
then this immigration thing swoops in, and all of a sudden he's saved. Like no one's happier about this immigration thing than he is, because he's got his job back.
Yeah.
Because now all the focus isn't on him anymore. Like he's just doing what he was a month ago,
Yeah.
and no one's reading about that. Everyone's reading about immigration.
Right. That's the thing. If it was Frank Underwood, he would have done this policy just to distract people.
But Trump's almost like Frank Underwood in that sense, is that it's a new thing every single day.
No one else.
And no one has the energy to just follow every single scandal.
I didn't want to talk
core.
about this. I didn't want to talk about this just because it's non-news. It's just a bullshit crap piece. But Melania wearing the
Oh yeah,
I don't care shirt or jacket. First of all, she probably I guarantee she didn't mean anything by it. She was probably just is an idiot and thought that was a fashionable jacket. And if she didn't, what they were doing is they're trying to distract people and get people.
I never thought of it like that.
Yeah,
but I think you're right.
I think they're distracting. They wanted people to see that jacket, and then news would all focus on that. All people would get up in arms and be like, "Oh, this woman she really is being a real piece of work, wearing this jacket in this climate." And then no one's focusing on the policy anymore. No one's focusing on the fallout of redacting the policy, and now everyone's like, "Oh, look how insensitive the president's wife is."
No,
And that's just not a story.
The media are like fish, and Trump is the guy who has the fishing pole, who throws the worm in the lake, and then just reels him in at will.
It's almost but I think I think it's more than that.
Am I wrong?
I think honestly, I think the media is like standing next to Trump, deciding what bait they want to put on the hook.
I mean,
what bait is going to
pick
reel
from the buffet, I guess.
What bait is going to reel the fish in
Right.
more easily? And I think insensitivity is a big one for people on the left. And so her wearing that jacket, I don't even think it should have been reported. I'm going to be honest, because what effect does it have on anything except distracting?
It doesn't affect
except distracting people from the real problems.
A little tangent right there, but guy I work with, who will remain nameless, actually took down the American flag outside of his house because he was so pissed about the immigration thing.
I don't have beef with that.
I don't have beef with it either. I'm just saying, like, you can see how this is like this is kind of evolving over politics.
Yeah. All right. So I think that'll about wrap up my delusional you want to get into yours. So this one is a funny one.
This is a beauty about delusional Democrats. So this
is more than Democrats.
This is just a real nut job on as left as it gets.
This Leon Trotsky left.
This makes Trotsky look like Ted Cruz. But
speaking of Ted Cruz, he's actually being a good guy on this immigration.
I was telling my dad this. I was saying, the situation is bad in the country when Ted Cruz is JFK. All of a sudden,
that's something. Ted Cruz is the moral voice of Congress.
You things are going bad.
You're really in the sewer there.
Right. But the article that I was going to reference, this article in this paper called The Root.
Yeah, and it's not a real.
It's not. I mean, it's this guy named Michael Harriet.
It's an op-ed news organization.
Right. And it's this man named Michael Harriet, and the title of this article was "White People Are Cowards." Now, is
this a white guy writing it?
No, he's not. He's African American. But if you insert any other like group, classification other than white people, any other group in society,
it goes viral.
People are just go wild, and like. It's just saying, like, generalizing this absolutely enormous group of population as just cowards who are you to do that? Who like?
This is the same kind of thing. Like when people criticize like Christianity or Judaism, it does not get nearly the same attention as if you criticize Islam, especially in this country at least. When people criticize Islam here, you're immediately xenophobic or Islamophobic.
Yeah.
If you criticize Christianity, you're just part of the public discourse.
It's a classic double standard situation. To dig into this article a little bit more, I'm gonna
This is the good part.
give you another quote here. A couple of quotes actually. First quote: Whenever anyone mentions the historical atrocity of chattel slavery, white people will emerge from the dark crevices of humanity to gnaw away at the assertion like roaches on a discarded Cheeto. That's a piece of metaphorical gold if I saw it. The second quote: despite the similarities between 1933 Germany and 2018 America, and then in parentheses, a rise in nationalism, government-sponsored ethnic cleansing movement, and a racist strongman in power, ... And then he ends the article where he says, I thought white people were evil. I was right. Mic drop.
Yeah. The claims in there are loose. They're paraphrased.
Oh, are they loose?
That last line, yeah, you put anyone else in there, it's hypocrisy. It's this identity-based othering for, I don't know what the purpose is.
Who's denying slavery, too?
I don't think anyone is.
And I mean, I'm sure there are, like, people, like, terrible people who are saying that slavery was not as bad as it actually was. But, you know, at the end of the day, that's a very small percentage of the population.
There's always people. There's always people.
Yeah.
There's people who believe the Earth is flat. I mean, there's always people who are just way out of the norm, and you got honestly, you have to disregard those people.
But that he doesn't. He zooms in on these
right. That's
people.
the thing.
Yeah.
That you can zoom in on the crazies no matter what.
Right.
There was a tweet the other day where some woman she tweeted that picture of the kid in the cage from the protest, and like you remember that picture? There was a kid in a cage. Yeah. Everyone thought it was real. They're losing their minds, and then she like tweeted it. She tweeted that picture and she said like, "This is America. Are we happy yet?" And then there's a bunch of just crazy Trump supporters who are like, nope, the kid's not over the border yet. Nope, he's not dead. Like horrible things. And she's like, and then she takes a screenshot of those comments.
And she say that's like your.
She's like, this is America.
Yeah.
This is where we're heading. And it's really not. It's just that's the margin. That's just the farthest margins of just horrible people.
And the point of this whole podcast,
and you just can't focus on those.
Exactly. And the point of this whole podcast is to revert people back to sanity and back to moderation.
Just don't focus
and realize that a soundbite or like a crazy tweet, a crazy minority tweet is not the big picture. That's the whole point of what we're doing here. And to go over
don't be an extremist and don't indulge in it either.
Correct.
Don't give them a headline like that.
To go over the similarities between 1933 Germany and 2018 America that he says in the podcast, tell me what government-sponsored ethnic cleansing movement is going on right now.
I don't have an answer for you.
It just doesn't exist. That's ridiculous. Think of how brash that is.
I think the only claim in there is that nationalism is on the rise, and honestly, it's not anywhere comparable.
Right.
If you were nationalistic in Nazi Germany, you were silenced.
Yeah.
Half the people in this country don't even like. They're so non-nationalistic, you wouldn't believe it. That guy took down his flag.
Yeah.
That wouldn't fly in Nazi Germany.
Right.
Tell me how Nazi Germany allowed for free speech and dissent against public policy. How tolerant was Nazi Germany of opposition? It just wasn't. It was a totalitarian regime, which means a single party and a single ideology, and there was no room for anything else. And we have freedom of speech in this country. I don't care what you say. We have it. And it's just that article is also irresponsible. Funny.
The fact that we're having this podcast represents a stark difference between the two.
Yeah, this would not fly. We'd be hiding in the attic.
Yeah.
If it was hiding in our basements if we were in Nazi Germany.
Correct.
Like it's just we'd be hunted. Like that's even something where we get like 30 listens a podcast. Like that's still it's a totalitarian regime. So now we're gonna run into our rotten segment, and I'll just kick us off real quick because Zach has the meat of this segment.
Pick from the buffet when it comes to rottenness. All you can eat.
So most of our rotten stuff is coming from actual public policy, not crackpots on Twitter this time. So I'm going to keep mine very brief. Mine's the trade war. The tariffs that are being put out on the EU, Canada, China are just damaging American business, American economy. It's becoming increasingly isolationist. I think it's a problem. I think it's rotten. I think it's
to its core.
I think it's hurting stock portfolios.
To their core.
the Dow has been hurt.
To the Dow's core.
And I think Zach really wants to talk about this a lot more than I do. So I'll just turn it over to him.
I'm just irate. I'm absolutely irate. The economy was just absolutely churning before this trade war, and now it's just, like the whole global economy is scared of this, of a trade war happening. The article I'm going to reference is in the Wall Street Journal, a paper which I actually adore.
Do you adore it? How much do you adore it?
More than you could ever know. More than I love air itself. It's just a phenomenal paper. However, the article is titled "The GOP's Trade Abdication," and that's just a beautiful title right there. Because, like, a few years ago, the Republican Party stood on the platform of, free trade and limited government. And all of a sudden, the Republican Party just changes to the party of Trump the second that he's put in office. There is no Republican Party anymore. It's literally the Trump Party.
Mm-hmm. And it's like the Tea Party all over again.
And I will stand by that.
Except with totally different policies.
Yeah, and I will stand by that assertion. The article was basically about how all the Republican senators and congressmen are totally silent on any of the tariffs going on, even though they're hurting a lot of the Congress people's constituencies. They're still totally silent because they fear a Trump tweet close to a midterm election will totally ruin their chances. And there's a senator from Tennessee, Bob Corker, who's not up for re-election, and has been one of the biggest thorns in Trump's side from his own party, and he was constantly criticizing him. And it basically said how Republicans are jealous of him and wish they could do the same, but they know they can't because they'll have no chance for re-election if they do so. And I'm just so furious. And it's just Trump's just parroting everything for the party. There is no party anymore. It's whatever he says goes.
I'm becoming a little more optimistic, though, now, especially with this immigration crisis, and Republicans in Congress are kind of resisting the policy and trying to enact bills that would do a little damage.
For the tariffs?
No, for immigration policy.
Oh.
And also, I think...
But there's not enough public outrage when it comes to the tariffs.
Right, that's so true.
Those tariffs should be slammed on the headlines.
It's a much more complex issue. Yeah. And it's also long. It's much longer. And like I said last time, information or attention is the scarcest resource in the information age. And this is something that's been going on for weeks now. And people get bored of it after a few days. Whereas the immigration crisis, it's like it's crazy and it's happening over the course of a week, and people can buy into it. But after, these tariffs going on for so long, they're kind of like, it's old news now.
Donald Trump does not understand economics. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. He doesn't. He has no idea. What good economically can come out of a trade war with China? You tell me what good.
I think he's operating in the global economy of 30 years ago.
What do you mean he's operating in the global? Tariffs have never been a good idea. Ever.
Well, if you want to become an isolationist economy... 30 years ago, I think
those economies do poorly. Isolationist economies do poorly.
I think that he
look at North Korea.
I think he doesn't realize how globalized the economy is now and how reliant every country is on huge market economies like the EU, Canada, and China.
I just don't think he cares. I think he's just catering to his base.
You think that? I think probably. You know what? That brings me to the point. I think he does understand economics. I think what he cares more about is the people that don't understand economics and think that this might be a good policy.
I think it's a mixture.
I don't think you can go to war and not get some grasp on economics.
What?
I think he knows the damage he's doing.
I don't. Yeah,
he's just appealing to a base that doesn't understand.
And that's even more sickening, in my opinion.
It's like the mortgage crisis in 2008. They knew the bubble that they were creating.
Oh, they
didn't care because they're gonna get bailed out. They weren't gonna get broken up.
Nothing good's gonna come out of a trade war with China. Nothing good. He's just such an idiot, and he says
all he talks about is our trade deficit. Our trade deficit simply means that we buy more of that country's goods than they buy from us because our currency is valued higher than theirs. That's all a trade deficit is.
Yeah, but a trade deficit to someone who works in an aluminum factory is zero dark 30.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. I'm saying he's putting a message out to people that don't have a grasp of global economics.
Speaking of aluminum factories.
Oh, here we go.
I
know what this
I was in Hastings, Michigan on Thursday as for my job, and I was working at an aluminum plant.
Yeah.
Okay. And everyone at the aluminum plant, I kept on telling me how they were getting killed by the tariffs.
Right.
Every single one of them.
I don't think they saw that coming, though.
How did they not see that coming? He said in his platform that he was going to put tariffs on aluminum and steel.
I know. I don't think that they saw the impact of the tariffs.
Well, they're idiots then.
That's what I'm saying.
They're
This is my
idiots.
point. Okay. All right. Zach's really starting to sweat
I'm
now.
so pissed right
so
now.
we're gonna call the segment.
I don't think we should call the segment. I still want to. I just want to just.
We're gonna let him run for one more minute. What more can you say? We understand.
Well, I'm gonna talk about the immigration thing and wind this into this a little bit.
Okay. I'm interested in that.
Unemployment's at 3.8% right now.
That's pretty good.
It's great. It's great. But the problem with unemployment that low is that it's starting to push wages up, which isn't necessarily a problem. But there are a lot of people there are a lot of highly skilled people sought in businesses where positions are opening where there are none available. They're all hired already.
That's what Sweden has that economic problem. They have a labor shortage on
highly skilled people. And I mean, it's not the worst problem to have. It shows your economy is doing well. And
and to be fair, I don't think you can really have an economy without having some imbalance.
He's approaching it so poorly, though. You need people like that, and if they're not there, you need to get them from somewhere. You need some immigration. Yeah,
I know, but I don't think the people he's denying are like the PhDs. We get a ton of PhDs. I think it's like 2/3 of our Nobel prizes are immigrants, and like a third of our PhDs are also immigrants. I think most of the people he's stopping are people that are kind of hopping the border.
Well, yeah, but that's what he wants you to think too. And there are better ways to handle that situation
I totally
than boot
agree.
out every immigrant that tries to get in.
I 100% agree with that. There's an infinite number of ways to handle this better than he's handling it.
I'm just so mad, and I'm just so mad. And I own Caterpillar stock, and that's taking a dive.
That's why he's really mad.
That's not only why. I'd be mad either way if I didn't own Caterpillar stock or not. But the amount of money that I've lost on that stock because of this trade war bullshit is just it's infuriating.
I do think
I'm sick.
Yeah,
I'm sick.
I think that was going on.
If I could, I'd send him an invoice. I swear to God, I would.
I think he's doing anything to appease his base. I don't think he cares how harmful it is.
I don't think he does either.
Which is just,
and that makes him even more of a dick than we even thought was possible.
Yeah, and that is also, I think, the word of this podcast: irresponsible.
It really is.
All right, so I think we're gonna wrap that up. Let Zach sweat it out a little bit, and then we're gonna get into our big news with the big man section. Let's get into our favorite segment.
Let's get ready to rumble.
Big news with the big man.
It's going down.
We got a special segment this week because Langston has found his own material.
Special big man.
We have a special big man segment this week because the big man has selected his own big news.
Oh yeah,
is
it really news?
No, it's not news. But he came across some things that really fired him up, and he said, "I want to talk about this." So,
he's fired up, all right.
So the first thing is a tweet that one of his followers liked and just came up on his feed. That's where I get the most radical stuff, things that other people have liked.
Did I mention he's fired up?
He's fired up. Okay. He's very fired up.
Yes.
So here's the tweet. in quotation, it has 151,000 likes and 40 or 50,000.
Well, that was on the day that I found it.
50,000 retweets. Probably more now. Just going to point that out. So it starts off with quotations that say, "Don't cross the border legally," referencing something that Republicans say, like, if you don't want this to happen to you, don't cross the border legally. Then she says, "The only reason you are not in their shoes seeking asylum is because you had the sheer dumb luck to be born here. You have done nothing to deserve the privilege you have. You did not earn your citizenship. You were lucky." Next time, I don't know how you feel about that.
First of all, I think we haven't addressed...
Wait. Did you mention that you're fired up?
Jacob.
He's fired up, by the way.
Okay, first of all, what I want to say, I don't think we've ever mentioned this on the podcast, but I would say that we are pretty privileged to be living in America and being born in America.
I'm not going to disagree that we're enormously lucky to be living here.
Okay. That being said, we are a nation, not a Goodwill store. You can't just roll up expecting handouts.
Wait, you said something... He said, like, when are people going to realize that the United States isn't the Salvation Army?
That's true.
If that wasn't gold.
Notice how it says, don't cross the border illegally.
Yeah.
Illegally means that a crime was committed. Therefore, there are punishment for that crime.
What does illegally mean?
What does what does illegal mean, Zach? Please tell me.
I don't think we need a lawyer to define what that means.
All right. Now, that also being said, the process of getting into this country is slow, difficult, terrible. It needs reform.
But defined.
Defined.
Great point.
Very defined.
It is defined.
It's written down. We've got it everywhere.
Might be difficult.
Might be very difficult. It is very difficult.
So is the ACT.
There's a process. Yes, there's a process. There's a process. And the way we punish people, that's a bit off too. It needs reform.
Yeah,
but
I don't think we
can't just let anyone who hops over into this country into the country.
Yeah, and
because this is a country.
I think at the root of it. Because this is the country.
This is the country.
As opposed to what? The Salvation Army. Okay, I think at the root of this is so this thing is she's saying we need to check our privilege, but what she's saying is like beyond that is we need to check our privilege in reference to people crossing the border illegally.
Okay.
Like I know I'm lucky to be here, but
yes,
it doesn't mean that I have to suddenly say it's okay to cross the border illegally.
Yeah, right. So like why do these people deserve to be more in this country than I do?
Yeah. Well,
why am I lucky to be here?
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's fair. It's a fair point. And I also think I think we all agree that the way to handle people crossing the border legally is much different than how it's being handled right now. I think we also agree that crossing the border is a crime if you don't go through the proper due process. Now this next one we're gonna get to, if it's okay with you that we move on. I know you're very fired up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Okay.
This next one we have to move on to is. I'm going to let Langston talk about it, but then me and Zach are going to go into it because it's a little bit more in depth than I think a lot of people realize.
But do you know what this is?
What?
This is a country.
This is a country. Okay. We have a whole constitution.
I've seen this passed around on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. It's called this 10 Stages of Genocide, which originally comes from a network called Genocide Watch. And there's this guy who studied cases like Rwanda, Armenia, and Germany, Nazi Germany, and he kind of simplified the process of how genocide happens, and he called it 10 stages of genocide. And so the major bullet points are classification, symbolization, discrimination, dehumanization, organization, polarization. It goes on until 10, and then 10 is where after genocide happens.
Yes.
It's been abbreviated to one sentence after each point.
That was my problem with it.
Yeah.
I haven't read
I've seen this on 3 different websites now, and people are saying. I think what's going on is people are saying, "Oh, we're at step 7."
Yes.
Oh, we're at step 8.
Step 7.
It's we're almost
preparation.
There. Yeah, we're almost
official
there.
action to remove / relocate the people or beings. Mm-hmm. So it's like
that's what that sentence says.
Yeah, that's the one sentence.
I'm gonna get to the delusion after.
Delusion. Oh yes. But read the long one so we can compare.
The point. Well, number 7 isn't even removal. It's called prep. Okay.
It's the preparation.
Okay. Yeah. So my point is here on this post, it's been paraphrased to one sentence to fit the narrative to make similarities to what's going on in the U.S. In the real posting, each one's about a paragraph. So this one talks about deliberately depriving resources to people. Programs are implemented to prevent procreation through forced sterilization or abortions. Basic human rights become systematically abused through extrajudicial killings, torture, and forced displacement. Genocidal massacres begin. They are acts of genocide because they intentionally destroy a part of a group. Perpetrators watch for whether such massacres meet any international reaction. And then property is often expropriated. People are segregated into ghettos, deported into concentration camps, or confined to a famine-struck region and starved to death.
All right, so there's
a thousand criteria. There's a huge criteria for
and
this.
then what they say in the post.
Yeah.
They said one sentence where people are starting to be moved.
Of course.
That's pretty much it.
Yeah. Of course.
So I think what they did here was just condensed it to fit the narrative that's going on right now. Where they left out a huge number of steps. I don't know about you guys.
Wait, hold on. I'm sorry. I didn't read the bottom part. At this stage, a genocide emergency must be declared. That's how.
Okay.
By like the UN.
All right.
Security Council or UN General Assembly.
So I don't know about you guys. You guys read the news more than me. But have you seen like a large number of Mexicans being killed?
No, and also I haven't seen a large number of Mexicans being moved in a genocidal sense. I've seen people cross the border legally and then detained.
Yes,
I haven't seen them taken from their homes that are citizens of the country.
Unfortunately, there have been cases where people have been in this country for an extremely long time and they committed a very small crime, either now or many years ago.
Yeah.
And then they did end up getting deported. Like there was a guy who was living in this country for like 26 years. He moved from Iraq or something.
Yeah, that is a problem.
He got deported. And I mean, there was...
Because you're always living on edge just being an immigrant.
You are living on edge. And like, yes, he did commit a crime. And yes, there is like... We do have rules that say if you do immigrate here and that you do commit a crime, like you are subject to deportation. But I mean, a guy that jaywalked, like this isn't actually what he did, but it was a minor offense. But like a guy that jaywalked 26 years ago is getting kicked out of the country is a bit ridiculous. But it definitely doesn't. Ridiculous isn't a strong enough word to describe it. It's abhorrent, to be honest.
But do you think?
But that does not fit a genocidal narrative.
Yeah, we're not at step 7.
No.
Oh, I think I read the wrong one. Nonetheless, sorry, I read section 8. I'm gonna read section 7. Okay, so
we're gonna delete that.
Okay, no,
leave that.
It doesn't matter. It still adds to the. Fine. What does section 8 say? It just says like preparation. Victims are identified. Like that's all it says. So it's sections. Whatever. In section 7, preparation, what'd you say it was?
Preparation was just moving people.
Okay, what it says here is the first sentence is plans are made for genocidal killings.
Do you think they're plotting in the White House? National
or perpetrator group leaders plan the final solution to the Jewish, Armenian, Tutsi, or other targeted group question. They often claim if they don't kill them, we will kill us, disguising genocide as self-defense. Political processes such as peace accords that threaten the total dominance of the genocidal group or upcoming elections that may cost them their grip on total power may actually trigger genocide. They cloak their intentions using either terms as ethnic cleansing or purification. They build armies, buy weapons, and train their troops and militias to kill groups.
Yeah, I haven't heard the Mexican purification. I think those are two big words for trouble.
This is another thing. This is just a slippery slope again. This is a problem that's immoral, and then people jump to genocide.
Yes,
it's not genocide.
It's just like you discussed earlier. It's just people trying to compare Trump to Hitler.
It is.
As we said at the beginning of the podcast, is Trump a jackass? In my opinion, absolutely. Is he Hitler?
I concur.
No. Is he Hitler? No.
I also think the system helps us prevent having a Hitler ever.
Question: is Donald Trump a white supremacist?
No.
I think he's just stupid.
I don't think he's white supremacist. I think
his base is white supremacist.
I don't think he actually thinks in his mind that white people are the greatest people on the planet. I think there's some people in his base that think that, and he doesn't do anything to dissuade them from following him. And I also think that he doesn't engage in any policies that are particularly pro-minority.
Right. But I think
I think we both hit the nail on the head here. But he does, like, in everything that he does, he tries to cater to the people that got him to where he is. Mm-hmm. And honestly, I don't think he really cares what policies he's pushing as long as he's in power. Yeah, that's my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. His base is blue collar white Americans, which they also might not be white supremacists, and most of them definitely are not. I'd gamble 98% of them are not, 99 even. But they're also white people, so he's not going to do anything to damage them with any policy that's going to hurt blue collar white Americans.
And I think that he could just as easily be running as a Democrat if he wanted to, and then
he wouldn't care. Yeah, he'd just say what he needs to say.
Yeah, like if a lot of people thought that putting a giant spaghetti monster statue outside of the White House was a great idea and that would get him in power, right. He would do it. Yeah. He's a power hungry animal.
Yeah,
that's all he
runs it like a business. He'll do what it takes to sell.
Not a business I would invest in.
Yeah, I know you would.
This is a country.
But that's what he's doing. He's
country,
selling,
not a business.
He's selling his presidency to a specific consumer, a specific market.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
I think we're good.
You're done with your...
I've got everything off my chest. I feel...
You feel relaxed now?
I feel
Are you fired up still?
I'm not still fired. I'm a little bit cooled down.
That's good. I'm glad.
I mean, I could go on a tirade about the whole trade thing.
Still a lot of dumb people on Twitter.
I think we're done with the trade thing. All right. Thanks for listening to Big Man. We're going to get into our wrap-up and get out of here. Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Undergraduate Moderates. As you can see, we've uploaded twice in 2 weeks, and we're going to try and keep that ratio consistent and upload every single week. Last week's episode turned out really well. We got good response from that. So we're just going to wrap up and talk a bit about what's going on. Langston, you want to talk about what you're doing right now?
Yeah, it's pretty interesting, actually.
Okay.
No. So right now, I'm in the phase of just doing solo works, making beats, sending them out to small local artists, seeing if they want it. If they don't, then I just send it to another one. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm just seeing what money I can make, what small money I can make. That's pretty much it.
Just I think that's a good call. If you're looking for someone to write some music for you, hit Langston up. I posted SoundCloud with every post that we do on Facebook. He also wrote all the music that we put on the show, and he also edits the show. He does a really great job.
Sometimes.
You haven't failed us yet. Also, in the coming future, we're going to try and... in the near future, we're going to try and expand our platform a little bit. We might be... we have a YouTube channel, but we're going to try and maybe upload onto it. We were going to try and get on Spotify, but the thing is it costs money, so we're trying to work that out. We're going to try and expand a little bit, so look forward to that. That's the end of our episode. I want to thank Joey Berlin for sitting in and listening. We'll see you next week.
a little bit of a tangent here, but if the Zimbabwean president was assassinated at any point, would anyone ever hear about that?
I think. I mean, remember when there were the elections? Like that's all I heard.
Yeah, I mean like Mugabe and all that, but still.
But he's gone. Now.
Yeah, he's gone.
It's Mnangagwa now.
Yeah, but yeah, back to what you were saying. Zimbabwe president was killed. I can't believe you said that. Am I wrong?
I think you're wrong. If the Zimbabwe president was killed,
Few people would talk about that.
Okay,
that would not be in public discourse.
Yeah. Okay, that's a different
I don't think I'm wrong to say that wouldn't be in public discourse.
That's fair.
I know Zimbabwe had a president.
Well, it was more of a dictator, but
Probably is going to be again.
yeah.
Got a cool flag.
How much of this are we gonna crop out?
It's up to him.
Yeah, so
Alright, we're gonna cut this part out.
we could keep it.
No, whatever he cuts out, he just puts in the bloopers.
Alright, that's fine. We'll put it in the bloopers.
Okay.
Alright. Back to what you were saying though, on how it's a couple of quotes actually. First quote.
Just get into it.
Alright, Langston's losing mine over here. Whenever Nigeria beat Iceland.
Iceland shit too.
No, don't stop it. Just keep it going.
Okay, ready? Okay.
Okay.
It'll be good for the blue.
Okay, I'm ready.
Should have had it
I'm ready.
prepared.
Ready? Bing! Okay, that's...
Don't ever do that again.
Alright,